And welcome back to the Prometheus Deep Dive, a CNC podcast. Today, this is the podcast where we dive into the first episode of Prometheus, Season of the Elders. And my co-host today is Season 1 winner, Lauren. Lauren, how you doing today?
What is happening? Happy to be here as always. You know how I am. I love doing the deep dives with episodes. That's like my bread and butter right there. Get to analyze everyone's gameplay. And I have to say, you have a great bunch of characters on this season. So I'm very excited to see how all of it pans out. But I think it was a great opener. And we got to see little bits and pieces of everybody, like some personalities a little bit more and some less. But I think those that we didn't get to see as much, they're going to maybe, make their arrival at some point in the season, I'm sure.
Yes, absolutely. Some people have multiple moments to shine and some people have yet to shine. But yes, I completely agree. We're just trying to focus on the heavy details, be a little bit more aggressive with the editing this season. But yeah, let's get into this colorful cast of characters. We'll start with Ariana. So Ariana is the first boot of Prometheus Season of the Elders, which was very unfortunate. I know Ariana outside of this game, and I didn't realize how heartbreaking it would be to see her confessionals and stuff like that. And even, you have that little moment when she's voted out and she talks about, sorry that I was painfully awkward, but she wasn't, she unfortunately just wasn't social enough in this fast-paced game.
You know what I don't like is when people say awkward, because let's be real, all of us have a little bit of quirkiness and awkwardness to us. And listen, we're playing freaking an online game where you're hopping on a Zoom and that's what your weekend is. We're all awkward. We're all weird. So I loved that she was on the cast. I know it was her first game and everything, and she would fit in my category as gone too soon. I think if she got her footing a little bit more, she could have maybe maneuvered some of the pieces. But I do think we got enough of her in the first episode where I want to see her try another experience again, because I think she can learn from her mistake of she was a little too hesitant. And now, I need to be a little bit more social because that's what other people were doing.
Yeah, absolutely. She is a reality fan, or at least a fan enough. I know she watches Big Brother and stuff like that. So I think, you saw her intro video where she said, she's going to play a filthy game and all that kind of stuff. And that was fun. I love seeing that intro because she definitely has a very a quirky side, a very outgoing side. She used to do, I don't know if she really does it so much anymore, but she used to do YouTube stuff, and, seeing that side of her personality would be great. But I think she's the type of person where she needs time to build relationships with people. And, sometimes minis aren't, everyone's cup of tea. Sometimes they need to play longer form games to really shine. And, that might be the case with her. But yeah, it really sucks seeing back her confessionals, because I think with the exception of her thinking there was something off with Mark, she was pretty spot on. I think she was pretty aware of what was going on in her game and what was really going on in this game, as a whole. So, it's, like I said, very unfortunate to see all of that with Ariana. But I do think if had they had gotten Jenny, which was essentially the swing vote for their team, if they had gotten Jenny to stick with them, I think Jeffrey, Mark, Jenny, and Ariana would have been a pretty tight crew. Because especially with the inexperience of someone like Ariana and Jeffrey, I think there might be very natural to stick with the people that you're bonding in this experience right off the bat.
That's the thing too. When you have veteran players, scoop up some of the newer players that don't necessarily know all the mechanics, how the game works, especially in a mini format, because those players don't have enough time to realize how good you are at the game. If you're playing a long game, the new players can finally figure it out and say, okay, these people are gamers, I got a gun for them, but you don't have enough time for that. You got to hit the ground running, find your alliance, don't be scared. I saw people being hesitant before that tribal council of not throwing out a name, and someone, I think it was, who was it? Jeffrey goes, I think I'm going to leave it up to chance. Sir, no. You are playing a game. You do not leave anything up to chance. And I know from me personally playing the game, I was very intense season one. I'm like, this is my alliance, cut and dry. I'm finding my people, and I'm not holding back, because if you hold back and wait, other people are making alliances without you. It's just the way the mini format works. You have to put yourself out there. I know it can be scary, but if you're not doing it, somebody else is, and that means they're talking about targeting you.
Yeah, absolutely. Which I do want to come back to that statement later, because I agree with it, pretty much completely. But we saw another player who literally tried to do that the second the game started, which in my mind was just like, oof, you don't do that. But yeah, we'll return to that in just a minute. But, continuing on talking about Team Iran, on the flip side of it, if it wasn't Ariana going, then it was Tasha. And we had some, in my mind, really great moments with her internet connection issues, which clearly everyone thought was pretty funny, but it's insane how well she bounced back from that. And part of it, I guess, is that the 4 people that could vote were in one room and the 3 that also could were in the other.
So here's the thing about her in particular. Correct me if I'm wrong. She is a gamer in the org community, correct?
Yes, she is.
Okay, so I recognize the name. I don't personally know her, but what I do know from what I've heard is that she's a very good player. So if anyone can recover from it, it's someone that has experience. She has experience. She got it together. She shaped everything up and was like, okay, people have this perception of me. What am I going to do to change that first impression? She changes the first impression. She squeaks by the first vote. And now I think she is someone that can gain momentum in this game potentially.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. And like I said, like you said, the experienced players, they're the ones that can really bounce back from that. And it's an amazing thing. And that's sometimes the issue with having so many new players with so many, experienced players, because about a third of our cast is actually, I think it's a little bit more than a third of our cast is brand new to orgs. This is their very first game. So hopefully it was not a negative experience for any of them. And they continue to play these games because they can be amazing. And, that you can meet honestly great people you would have never met in a million years. But yeah, she's able to bounce back from that. But, I think a highlight from that is Ben. Ben was pretty much right from the jump, right after they were finished the challenge. He was like, oh, no, Jocelyn can't vote. Like, it's us 4 and then it's them 3. Like, he knew it. Everyone else realized it after Ben said it or later down the line. I mean, it took Mark. Mark had that, oh, shit moment like halfway through that segment where he was like, oh, my God, guys, like, we need to move around, which is something that, you should be doing, period. You should be constantly moving around to get to know people. You cannot just stick into a room because then otherwise you might be screwed. And those might be the only people that you're forced to work with because they're the only people you know. But yeah.
Ben Smart has a good read on what's going on thus far in the game, recognizing that component and then being able to go to a group of people. Y'all, we're here. This is the numbers. Let's make a decision. Perfect move on Ben's part. Now, Mark, my friend, why do I always find myself talking and analyzing Mark's games? But here I am yet again. You know better. Mark, you know better. Because Mark is always thinking he's a very, very intelligent guy. And I think he just got stumped a little bit there because if anyone was going to think that, I thought Mark would be the one to recognize, oh, shit, I am in the wrong room. I do not have numbers right now. I need to go talk to other people. And I think we ran into a situation there where it might have been too little too late had he gotten what he wanted before with connecting with Jenny. If Jenny was with them first or they start swapping around rooms, I think we could have seen a different outcome, but we didn't.
Yeah, I completely agree. And you know what, honestly, I forgot that you knew Mark from a different game. But yeah, Mark should know better. You're exactly
Yes.
right. He should know better. Mark is a smart guy. He is strategic. He is competitive. And oh man, but I get also where his train of thought was at, in wanting to keep Ariana around. But I think, it's like, it's too early in the game and the game moves so quick that sometimes if the majority is already settled on it and it's the first vote, go with the flow. Don't rock the boat, So that was also a shame that, that happened. There's just so many little blunders. I mean, hell, even Jocelyn said, which it could have been It could have been kind of a lie, but even she said, I'd be rolling an 8-sided die if I was in the voting position. She could have just been bouncing off Jeffrey. That could have been a social adaptability sort of statement, because at the end of the day, she doesn't vote, and she's also immune from the vote. So she could really say anything she wants, and it's not going to affect the outcome of her game at all, at least in this round.
I can't wait for you to ask that question, because I would like to know what her thought process was. If it's adapting to what someone else is saying, brilliant. If not, that's scary, because anytime someone says to me, I'm going to leave it up to chance, I do not want to work with you, because I'm not a chance person. I like concrete alliances. I do not like flaky alliances. And anyone that says, I will just roll a dice and see what happens, no, you're not with me. That is too much of a wild card. You can't have wild cards. You just can't.
100% agree. Wild cards are the number one thing that I need to get out of the game, because they don't fit in any equation for me. I can't, try and predict something. But yeah, with you just said something I was going to comment off of. Yeah. Well, when I get the chance, though, I will definitely ask her that, if she can even remember.
Yes.
Oh, I remember what I was going to say. Yeah. So like, one of the number one things that I always think about when I come into these games, for the most part, I like to play a fairly honest game, because as people start to know who you are, if you run into someone, you want them to know you as an honest player, not as a snake. But the number one thing that I always think of is, when you're in a social situation, especially in these types of games, you need to be agreeable. Just people love it. People love to, think that you guys are on the same wavelength. You're agreeing with them. Essentially, yes man. A lot of people say they don't like yes men, but they do. Being agreeable is like number one in these social situations. So like, that is definitely an agreeable statement. Oh yeah, I'd be doing the same thing. And it builds this like sort of subconscious like kinship, between the two of them. But yeah, I don't know if that was, a true statement from her, or if it was just her being agreeable. So I kind of want to hit on some of the other people. We have Louise. Louise is one of our international players this season. Also, about a third of our cast is international. So what did you think about Louise, especially with her opening statements about being a rat and having all the rat metaphors that she opened the game up with?
So I always say, if someone comes in with a way that they want to play the game, show it to me. Obviously, episode 1, we're not going to see that. But if you're going to play that way, please play that way. I love it. It's entertaining as a viewer. But if you're not intending to ever play like that, and we don't see any of that side of your personality, it's a disappointment. It really is. So I'm hoping to see a little bit of that. If that is the way she does intend to play, that slow burn social game, get to know each other, and then sniping them at the end, love it. I'm here for it. I'm here for a good villain, and I hope she can be a villain.
Okay. So before we move on to the other team here, do you have any statements or any final thoughts in regards to them?
So Jenny, for me, I think Jenny is going to be someone that you need to watch for, because in this moment, you're going to have people that know that she was in the quote unquote swing position, because you have someone such as Mark, who's very smart with these games. Obviously, he knows where he voted, and he probably assumes Jeffrey voted in that direction too, instantly knows Jenny. So that is something that you need to take in and say, okay, was she playing the middle all the time? Because the split, a 4-3 split, especially on the first vote, that changes the game drastically. So she's going to be someone I want to watch out for, because she's either going to do really well, or you're going to have people turn on her and say she has too much power, because that decision was solely her decision.
Yeah. I completely agree. And we did see that the team wanted to be united. They said that they were going to try and, let the others know that it was going to be Ariana. But yeah, she had all the true power in that situation. And you can see that she was struggling with that decision in her confessionals, because she's just like, so, which was so funny. But yeah, she did have all the power, and we'll have to see how that unfolds in the aftermath of this temple. So moving on to our other team, we have Team Gayan. So what did you think about Team Gayan, the Elder, any of the standouts for this team? Obviously, we didn't see really a lot of strategizing, except for Maddie, who literally was strategizing from the jump.
I'll start with Maddie. So I know I said before, jump the gun. I didn't mean jump the gun with the entire cast getting to know each other and trying to solidify alliances. I'm talking jump the gun when you have your tribe made. You don't even know who you're starting with. It should be, hey, hello, how are you doing? Where are you from? That's it. And then talk less. I mean, I even look at how some of the picks worked and everything with the season. Going back to my season 1, I was picked very, very low because I didn't really say too much, but I said enough where I was somewhat relevant. Whereas the people that talked the most on our season were picked very early on. And you kind of saw it again on this season. So there's people that didn't get picked early on that I think are going to be really good players on this season.
Yeah. I think that is a really good strategy as well. You know, you talk just enough to keep yourself relevant, but not less to get yourself picked last to become forgettable, you know, right, or to be first boot, essentially. But yeah, so one of the biggest talkers, or two of the biggest talkers, I think, were Tracy and Bloody. And we'll start off with Tracy. Tracy, she's the oldest player in the game. And granted, this is only our second season, but she's the oldest player that we've had, period, at 51. And she works in hospitality. So I guess for her, it's kind of second nature. So what do you think about Tracy?
Tracy's also new to games, correct?
It's her first game.
Perfect. So Tracy, lots of energy. I think she's excited to be there, which you love to see. People that haven't had this experience before and want to almost hit the ground running. Here's my problem with Tracy. The picking. She said way too much information about why she was picking Bloody, saying they have a connection. Don't tell people in front of everybody you have a connection with somebody. They're going to they're going to mash you together instantly. So I think it comes from excitement. I don't think she was necessarily trying to do it. I think it was an accident, but the people that you have that are thinkers in the game recognize those components and those pieces and say, they have this deep of a connection already. All right, that's a duo right there, or at least some capacity they're going to be working with each other. So I'm a little concerned about that. Now, she's safe with the Elder for the time being, but again, it's one of those things. Don't out how close you are. What she really should have done, you say the name who you're picking. That's all you got to do.
Yeah, I agree. Now, there was a lot of deleted scenes from that whole picking segment where I'd say the first half of the people, so essentially all the talkers, a lot of them did give like explanations as to why they were choosing, which, yeah, at this point, you're just like, okay, this person and that's it. Just be done with it. But yeah, she gave up a lot of information. And I mean, it does essentially paint a target on herself as well as Bloody in this instance, you know, and you don't want to do that. Which leads us to Bloody. Bloody being the talkative super fan. I don't know if you stopped and looked at the notes she took, but there's a lot more notes. I'd be willing, if you want to see any of them, I'd be willing to share them because she definitely had some notes on you and the rest of the game. So very, very interesting person.
So I did see in the comment section something, take a drink every time that season 1 is mentioned from Bloody, and I cracked up. I love it, but at the same time, I'm like, oof, do not be bringing up season 1 all the time. I love that she enjoyed it. Yes, I do. But the amount of time, and I know it's editing, you put I'm sure you put every single thing that she said, season one, just to make it happen. But I've actually spoken to her a little bit, like we've messaged back and forth. I think she's great. But I'm interested to see how she does, because if people know that you analyzed games, and obviously they're not seeing the notes, this is the first time, like with the episodes, I'm sure. But if people know how much you watched season 1, that means you're analyzing everything that came up. You know what players did wrong. You know what players did well. And that is a threat. So if she's able to lower that threat level, I think she has a great personality. I think that can help her go far in the game. She can't lower that threat level. I think she goes earlier which makes me sad because I do like her and I think she's going to be a fun character on the season, but you got to be really careful the information that you tell other people.
Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree. I think, honestly, there's a lot that could be said about Bloody, but I think we just hit all the major points, especially she is essentially, her character type is the super fan. And yeah, I did highlight some of the instances, but honestly, she brought up season 1 way more than it's even in the episode. So,
oh, God.
Yeah. But I love the enthusiasm, and yes. Only the fact that we only had 1 season, so, but yeah, moving on, one of the other big players that I said we needed to watch out for. So I don't know if you watched the preseason podcast, but I mentioned 3 players to really look out for. And I said it was Louise, who happens to be on the other team, and then Bloody and Antonio. So you do have 2 really powerful people, or seemingly powerful and knowledgeable people, who are not only on the same team, but Bloody just had her, sort of highlight because of Tracy. But then we have Antonio, who happens to know Bloody. So what do you think about Antonio in this episode?
Antonio, fun loving, brings the energy, is trying to make people laugh. I think he's hilarious. So that's someone that you want to keep around, because at the end of the day, when you're playing these games, you want to play games with people that are fun and that you enjoy hanging out with and enjoy like being part of the situation. So I think it's a good thing to have. It's a good quality to have. At the same time, where do people draw the line where it becomes threatening, where you become too likable that then people want to clip you? So it's all a balancing game. I think Antonio is going to go decently far in this game. I want to see more from Antonio, but the fact that people know and or recognize each other, it's always something to look out for. What's the history? Did one of them vote one another out? I mean, it's the same situation with Andrew and myself when we saw each other. I did him dirty in the game not dirty. I hate saying that. I just voted him out. Like, he was the merge boot in the first game we played together. And then this game, we ended up working with each other, but we were never going to take each other to the end. So it's, good or bad to have a relationship going into the game. In my personal opinion, no relationships. I don't want to know anybody, because I don't want anyone to know slightly what my game is. I want to be able to go and play my game without anybody knowing who I am, how I've done in games. It's so much better playing with the newer cast because it's fresher. Everyone is on the same page. Everyone's on the same wavelength. Whether you hate somebody that you see or recognize, there's still a connection there where that can bond you for a couple votes here and there. And I think it makes a huge difference when you don't have that many connections in a game.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we really try our best to do, 0 prior connections, but I mean, shit just happens, slips through the crack. It seems like everyone knows each other in this world, which is very unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, it could potentially be very devastating or very much an asset. And I definitely think for season 1, for you and Andrew, it was very much an asset. I mean, literally, you both, repaired whatever prior damage, you just left it in the past, and you guys made it to the end. Obviously, Andrew didn't even get voted out, at the end. He just lost the challenge. But yeah, we'll have to see how that plays out for Antonio and Bloody.
Because we only got Antonio's point of view from it. We haven't gotten Bloody's point of view. So it's going to be different when we see what her stance is.
Yes, absolutely. Which you may or may not see that soon enough. But moving on to some of the other people, we've already started to see sort of divisions or alliances being created. So, we have 8 people here, and obviously we've already highlighted, you had Bloody and Tracy. They're like, I guess, becoming a thing. Then you have Bloody and Antonio, who know each other prior. Then you have Antonio with, I forget exactly what they called themselves, but like the River Boys or something like that, which was Maddie, Antonio, Michael, and
was Josh
CJ.
with them? CJ was with them?
CJ,
okay.
Yeah. So it was those 4. But Michael says in his confessional, like, he already could tell he's on the bottom. Mm-hmm. Antonio pretty much highlights that as well. He says, CJ, Maddie, and I were joking about a bunch of stuff, and I don't think Michael really got it. And then you have on the other side, Aaron, Josh, and Michael in the one room right after they won the challenge, where Josh is like, yo, I think we're on the bottom. I think we're fucked. Like, let's, team up together. So it's really crazy for a team that has not even gone to the temple yet they've already started to find little groups to fit into. So what do you think about that?
That's going to be a tribe I'm really interested in looking and seeing what they do, because you have those little tiny alliances here and there, and they're not majority alliances at the moment, because yes, they have that 4, but is it really a 4? Because Michael just said to Josh and Aaron, hey, I want to work with you. So it's going to be interesting to see where that fits. And then also Tracy and Bloody, where do they fit with all those people? We don't know that yet. So I'm excited to see more from that tribe in particular, because first votes are crucial in a game. And especially what we just saw with the other tribe, they're a split. A 4-3 split is mind-boggling on a first vote. But with this tribe, I think we could see the same thing as well, because there's no clear outlier at the moment of who I think would necessarily be the first person voted out, because there are tons of little pieces that are happening. You have people floating around with this person, floating around with another, groups forming here and there. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's the crazy thing, too, is, you have all these potential divisions already happening. As we already said, a 4-3 split's crazy for the first, vote of the game. Whereas, take it back to your guys' season, and pretty much all the votes, like seriously, almost all the votes throughout the entire game were like very clear majorities.
The only split we had, I think, was going right into the merge when we voted out
David.
When we voted out. No, we voted out Zach. Wait, did we all vote together?
Oh, you're talking about in day one. In day one,
no,
it was
David was pissed at us. So yeah, we did not all vote together.
Yeah, but that's the first vote of day 2 was a little all over the place, because you had people throwing rogue votes and all that kind of stuff. But aside from that, everything in your guys' season was pretty unanimous or damn near majority. Or over majority. But
until you got to towards the end, it was not that way anymore.
Yeah, it started to break up. But yeah, I mean, it's just crazy that you're already seeing that with this cast. I mean, I think that just goes to show that you have a mix of players that are really here to game, and also some people that might be making some mistakes. But I mean, only time's going to tell as these episodes go on.
But I love mistakes. Think about this. Everyone makes a mistake in game. No one ever plays a perfect game. It's if you can recover from your mistake. And that's why I think some people maybe made blunders in episode 1, but they can turn around. I mean, I made many blunders in my game. My game was nowhere near a perfect game, but it's recovering from that and then being able to pitch to people why you're worthy of winning. I think a lot of these people are really good talkers too. And I think they can be persuasive. And so it's going to be interesting to see people come out of their shell and be able to do that. Because the problem with a premiere episode, you don't see everybody. There's some people we don't know a lot about, and there's some people we know a ton about. So you have to kind of wait and see.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think for the most part, that I think covers it on that team. Did you have any other final thoughts in regards to those players? Because I wanted to talk about the challenge just a little bit.
The one person I do hope to see more from on that tribe, I want to see a little more from Erin, hopefully. I want to know what her game is going to be, because I don't know that quite yet. But I do think, just based on how she was with body language and all that, I think she has some good things that she could provide to people in the game, and being an ally is mostly what I'm saying. I think she could be a good ally, but I need to see more from her to confirm if I'm correct on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, for the most part, she was on the quieter side as well. You don't see a ton of her, unfortunately. Same thing with CJ in this episode. Yeah, so there's just, unfortunately, there's just, not as much content. And like I said, I was trying to be a little bit more aggressive with the editing, where season 1 I try to give a fair balance of people. But when the content's there, the content's there. So I guess kind of winding things down, just to hit on the challenge a little bit. So what do you think about the challenge for this season, especially given the fact that we put in the handbook, and we did it specifically for this reason, because there's people that definitely don't read the handbook, but we gave the answers right in the handbook.
Casey, how do you think I would have done with this challenge?
Oh, probably terribly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I would have been absolutely one of those people that would have said, oh, oops. Like, really? Yeah, I would have been terrible, awful. You would have said the question and be like, oh, what is that? What does that mean? So I feel for the people that didn't do well, but now I'm learning. I've learned a little bit, maybe read and see what's there, but what are you going to do? The people that saw it, they knew the answers. The people that didn't, well, what are you going to do?
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, though, like, especially when you're signing something, you should really know what you're signing. I mean, hell, I guess I'm one of those people, but like at a doctor's office, when they start handing me pages, I'm not just going to sign all these pages and give them back to you. Like, I do actually read those fucking pages. And whenever I play a game, especially when I was first starting out in orgs, I thoroughly read through everything because I was just like, I don't quite understand how these operate. I want to make sure that I know what the hell I'm doing, what the hell I'm talking about. But, we also told people, at least watching season 1 was the best homework you could do. So even if you didn't read the handbook, at least knowing something about season 1 could potentially get you some of those correct. But yeah, a lot of people, I mean, Guyan pretty much swept that challenge.
Oh yeah, they did. But you had people like me that for orgs, just sign the dotted line. Here you go, have it back. I don't care about what it said. It could have said anything in there and I just didn't read it.
Yeah. Well, that challenge will definitely be making a comeback for the 3rd season because we're going to try and get more people to read that damn handbook.
Season 3, look out. But I will tell you, I was disappointed. Our first challenge from season 1 was iconic, and I hope to see that challenge again.
The scavenger hunt video?
Yes, where you had to act out. I just think it shows people's personalities, and people that are a little bit more shy, they have to come out a little bit and do the video. And I think it's a lot of fun. So I hope to see it back. If I don't, I'll be disappointed.
Maybe you will see it, maybe you won't, but we'll just have to see in the next few episodes if that's the case. But anyway, aside from the teams, the challenges, the vote out, do you have any final thoughts before we conclude the podcast?
Honestly, I think it's a home run with the cast. There's a lot of people I'm excited to see. And as I said before, we saw bits and pieces of everybody, some more than others. And I think whoever wins this season is going to be a great, great player because you have a lot of them, even if they're new. I think new players can definitely catch on from veteran players because sometimes veteran players do things that, people say, can I really trust that? So I think you have some new people that maybe might jump up into the ranks, but I do think a veteran player will probably win this season just because it is a mini. Minis, I always say, if you've played before, you know kind of how it works, where that's why I love seeing new people play longer based games because they can catch on, and you can't catch on as quickly in a mini format. But yeah, like I said, I'm excited. I think it's a good crop of people. You have characters. I love characters. I'm waiting on my villain. Villain, please come out. I hope to see you. And I'm waiting on my hero. I love a good hero. I love a good story. So we'll see what happens, but I will be watching, and maybe I'll message some of these people and say great game afterwards because I can't wait to see who's going to win this. I'm so excited. It's great.
So, I forgot to do the Ember Award. So this is the tail end of the podcast, I guess. So I'm going to actually say, even though it was only one episode, only one boot, we're going to give out 2 Ember Awards for this episode. We'll give out one for each team. We'll give out one for Guyan and we'll give out one for Iran. So who do you think should get the Ember Award for Team Guyan?
So for me, for Guyan, it's a little bit tricky because obviously they didn't go to tribal council, so they're not having to really worry about all the connections, but there were connections made. And I think this one person in particular kind of realizes who might be with who. And I'm going to give it to Antonio. also because I think Antonio, as I said, brings a lot of personality. People gravitate towards that. People are there to have fun, have a good time. And if you can provide that for a group of people, I think that's something that people can latch onto. So I'm going to go with Antonio on this one.
Okay, interesting. I'm actually stuck between 4 people. Yeah, this is something that I went back and forth with for a while. So I was stuck between Tracy, between Bloody, between Antonio, and between Michael. I think there's a lot less to go off of in this first episode. It's just so difficult. I want to give it to either Antonio or Michael. Ultimately, because I think Antonio, we see that he is a smart player. We see that he is already starting to build bonds, this potential 4. But then you have Michael on the other side, who actually has himself in 2 different groups right now. And it is honestly, you see that he has perception of what's going on in the game. So technically speaking, having himself, you know what, actually, I think I made the decision. I'm going to give it to Michael, and it's solely because he has the perception to know where he's at in the game. And with that, he now technically has 5 allies out of 8. He's got the 3 other River Boys, and then he has Aaron and Josh. So I'm going to give it to Michael for that reason. Like I said, there's a lot less to go off of on Team Guyan, but I think Michael will be my Ember recipient. So moving on to Aaron, who do you think deserves the Ember Award?
First of all, I think Michael's a great pick. That was my other person I was deciding between. It was always probably between those 2 for me. You had 4 people. That's wild. But again, I think it just shows how good a lot of these players are going to be in this game. So from the other tribe, originally I was stuck between 2 people, but I'm not stuck between 2 people anymore. I made my decision. My decision is going to be Ben. And the reason so is because Ben was able to realize quickly what was going on numbers wise and solidified a group very, very fast in that you don't know how long they have to talk to each other. And he figured out the twist, knew that the other person that couldn't vote wasn't in the room. 4 is majority against 3, getting them to get a name. They got a name. He got what he wanted in that situation. I will tell you though, the other person I was deciding between was Jenny. And I didn't pick Jenny because I think there's going to be some repercussions after this vote that she did not vote with the other crew. But I do think still she's a person to watch.
I think that's completely fair in regards to Jenny. I do think, though, I'm going to also agree with your Ember recipient and give it to Ben as well. Everything that you pretty much said. And in addition to that, something that did make the episode, which isn't that big of a deal, but during the strategizing leading into the challenge, because we gave them about a minute or so to strategize and also choose an order, even though Jocelyn was the elder and we wanted her to officially deliver the numbers to us, Ben actually stepped up on the plate and organized those numbers and making sure they had that order. But also, I think, I hope I'm not speaking out of term here, but there was a scene, it might have gotten cut because we ended up doing like last minute re-edits, but there was a scene where pretty much everyone wants Ben to stay. And they all say it, and it's because everyone loves Ben. So Ben hits all the notes right there in that first episode. So Ben, I think, is very reasonable to give him the Ember Award. But yeah.
We think way too much alike, but it's okay.
I think we're both smart players. That's why. All right. So on that note, thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you, Lauren, for coming on. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Casey Needs a Co-host. And on that note, good night.